Chapter 4: Trust Through Age. Before we dive into an in-depth conversation regarding content creation and some of the best practices when writing SEO-geared content, I wanted to discuss the trust in age component. What does it mean to have trust in age by Google? If you'll recall back to the beginning of the book, we saw the pyramid of trust, which had 4 components. Those components were age, authority, content, and relevancy. We've already seen the trust in authority component, so what about age? Age is an important component in the trust equation, and in order to earn a higher page rank over time, you have to simply get older. Now, this doesn't mean the age of your domain name. No, it simply means the date from the first time that Google indexed that domain. So even if you have a domain name that's 10 years old, if you never did anything with it, and Google never found it until, say, a year ago, you don't really have much age. Now, I would say that this is probably better than a domain you purchased a year ago, but not by much. So the importance here lies in Google's ability to find that domain and index it. If it was found a year ago, then it's okay. If it was found and indexed 10 years ago, then you're golden. Of course, we all can't have those kinds of domains. In fact, most of our domains are brand new. We're usually just starting out with a new site, or we have one that's not very old. So, how are we supposed to approach SEO? What are we supposed to do when we start out with a pre-existing disadvantage? Well, one thing is clearly apparent here, and that is that Google has drawn a very fine line in the sand. That line is saying that no matter what you have going for you in terms of SEO-related factors, it just can't trust you unless there's some real age to consider. This means that regardless of how well your pages are optimized for your keyword, or how much authority you've built over the short period that you've been around, if you really want to play with the big boys, then you need age. When you have age behind you, and the authority that comes along with it, what you'll notice is that almost as soon as you've posted some new content, it will gain significant rank. Like businesses, Google knows that trust is built over time, which is why it gives special weight to this factor. So you might be thinking, oh great, I have a new domain, so now what? Well, you have 2 choices here. The first choice would be to stick it out with the new domain and do the work over time required to build up the rank of your site. The other option would be to purchase something called an aged domain. What's an aged domain? An aged domain is one that's been around for a while, and for one reason or another, it's expired or the owner has let it go and now it's available for purchase. When you understand the importance of a domain that's already been indexed by Google in the past, then you'll understand the importance of having an aged domain. But if you have an existing website with an existing business name, this is virtually impossible to make the transition. You can't just buy a new domain name if your existing domain name is an integral part of your business name. But that being said, it's still important to understand just what an aged domain name is and how it plays a role in today's search environment. Researching domain ages. To remove a layer of obscurity from Google's complex search algorithms, let's look at just how to discover a domain's age. A domain's age, as I stated before, has little to do with the date the domain was first registered. The domain's age is indicated by the first time Google indexed it. With that being said, again, let's look at just how to discover Google's historical indexing. For a long time, I've discussed using a tool called the Wayback Machine. The Wayback Machine is an internet archive that has over 500 billion website snapshot images indexed. It's a great tool for discovering the historical content of any domain. It's easy to search and easy to filter through the search results. To use this important resource, simply Google Wayback Machine or type in its URL, archive.org/web. What you'll notice when you type in your domain name is a bar graph with the results of the site's historical indexing. You can preview any of the captures to get a sense of what your site, or any site for that matter, looked like at the time it was indexed. This is incredibly useful when you're attempting to purchase an aged domain. Purchase an aged domain? Yes, a simple and effective method exists for doing this. And the best method is to use an auction site through a company like GoDaddy. Now let's backtrack a bit. Why would you need an aged domain? You might not want to change domains midstream, but let me argue here in favor for why you might want to do just that. Because the alternative, with a new domain name that is, will cost you years of time. Why not purchase a domain name that has already been indexed by Google 3 or more years ago? It's not difficult, and it doesn't cost a lot of money. And it will save you an immense amount of time. But there are some restrictions here. 1. Historical indexing matters. You have to look for domain names that correspond to the niche or industry that you're in. That's because you have to ensure that the historical indexes of that domain are going to match up with the content that you intend to spread. For example, you don't want to purchase an aged domain about health products if you're running an entertainment blog. That won't work in your favor. This is where the Wayback Machine is so useful. You can actually peruse the pages of the domain that you're intending to purchase at auction before you buy it. This way, you can ensure that the historical content is going to match the content that you're going after. 2. Domain names that suffered Google penalties. Another important point to keep in mind when searching for a domain name at auction are domains that suffered from Google penalties. A domain name could have been abandoned by its owner due to a drop in traffic that resulted from careless SEO tactics. So how are you supposed to tell if a domain suffered from a Google penalty? Well, one important clue comes directly from the Wayback Machine. Is the graph steadily rising or steadily oscillating from high to low? Or was there a sudden drop-off somewhere? It could be that the sudden drop-off came from a change in ownership, but it could also be due to a number of other factors. So these are some concerns that you should have. Look at the indexed pages for clues when it comes to this. There's no absolute way to tell if a domain that you're purchasing at auction has suffered from Google penalties, or if it was just abandoned by its owners due to a close in business or a change in their priorities in life. You could research further if you feel so inclined, but be wary. The point here is that if you see a Wayback Machine bar chart that hasn't steadily climbed over time, then stay away from that domain name. 3. Domain reputation. The last point to note when researching and purchasing aged domains is the domain's reputation. What did the prior owner do with that domain name? Were they running a business, a blog, or some other service? What was the reputation of that domain? You can run 2 distinct advanced searches on Google to determine both more information and reputation. You can garner these from Google's advanced info search and link search. To do this, it's rather simple. For more information, head to Google and simply type in brackets info:/domain.com using both the brackets and the colon exactly without any spaces. Of course, domain.com would be the domain name of the domain that you're researching. The info search will give you more information about the web address, similar pages, pages that link to that site, and even cached versions of the site itself. Now you do have the Wayback Machine for this, but it's great to see what Google has to show for the domain. The other search is for inbound links to the domain. Since authority and PageRank are what we're after, and the quality and number of links essentially equate to PageRank, you'll want to find out who's linking and to what page. Keep in mind that those links might not all be to the home page. They might lead to pages on the domain from the past owner that no longer exists. So those links will be wasted unless you create pages with the same name to salvage those links. Further, if you do purchase that domain, you could run into link quality issues if you don't hunt down each of those links to non-existent pages on the domain and update them. So be prepared to put in the work if you're heading down this route. To conduct the search on Google, it's rather similar to the info search. Use, in brackets, link:/domain.com with the brackets, colon, and no spaces. If you add a space anywhere, the search won't work. Again, domain.com in this instance is the domain that you're researching. Purchasing an aged domain. If you've put some consideration into purchasing an aged domain, or you simply want to see what's out there available for purchase, then the process is rather simple. However, it does differ from purchasing a brand new domain in that ownership isn't granted right away. When you purchase an aged domain, the process could take anywhere from a few days to a few weeks for ownership to be transferred. It simply depends on a variety of factors from the domain repository, as the transfer process is not as simple as the purchase process. With that being said, if you're ready to do some research into aged domains, then head over to auctions.godaddy.com, which is simply one of many online repositories where you can search, analyze, and purchase aged domains. When you arrive at the site, you'll see a search bar somewhere in the middle of the page. In this search bar, you can enter in the keywords for your search to conduct a very quick search, but I wouldn't recommend doing it that way. Off to the right, you'll notice an advanced search link. Click that link. Once you do, you'll be presented with a number of options that you can select in order to find the perfect domain. This is important since our criteria for purchasing is going to be specific. So what are we looking for exactly here? 1. Real age. We're not just looking for any domain name for sale. We're looking for a domain with real age. What do I mean by real age? I mean that Google must have indexed the site at some time in the past. How long in the past? We want to focus on 3 or more years. However, I would suggest initially shooting for 5 or more years. Why is that? Well, this domain will have some authority. Granted, the old pages that could have had links to them might not exist any longer, but we could still find domains that have a high number of links to the home page. How is this determined? Well, we already covered this strategy using the Wayback Machine. We can analyze any domain of our choosing by using the Wayback Machine. So make sure that you open that site up in a second window or tab as you do your domain purchasing research. 2. Keywords. What are your primary keywords for your site? Are you running a niche site based on a specific topic or section of information? Regardless of what you're doing, you should know your primary keywords. What are they? Have you done your research? Knowing your keywords, especially when you have a laser-focused site, is important when you're conducting research for an aged domain. We are looking for an aged domain that might possibly contain one of our primary keywords in it. For example, if we're selling cars, an aged domain with the word car, cars, auto, or autos might be the right fit. If we're selling candy, resume writing services, or whatever else it might be, then we also know what keywords we're going after. Take time right now to brainstorm your keywords. How can you get as specific as possible? This will help you when you select from the advanced set of options available to you when searching for aged domains on sites like GoDaddy Auctions. 3. Domain extensions. Consider the domain extension you want to purchase, but keep one very important factor in mind. Although domain extensions by country will help you to rank higher for searches done in that geographic location, it won't help to improve your ranking globally. Focus on purchasing a .com domain in the beginning if possible. These domains will give you the highest overall ranking potential. Of course, if you want to be more specific, you could choose from a number of options today, such as .co, .biz, .name, and so on. In the preceding image, you'll see the advanced search screen for GoDaddy Auctions. There are just a few things to keep in mind here when conducting your search. If you leave the default settings, then you'll likely come up with no results. Keyword. Ensure that you change the default setting of exact match to contains. If you leave it with the default setting of exact match, it will only look for that exact match. For example, if you enter in cars, then it will only look for the domain name cars.com or whatever extension you select, and you won't get any results. Extensions. Select .com or whatever domain extension you're looking for. Or you could leave this entry blank and get a list of every domain extension available for that particular search. Attributes. Select the Buy Now option, to find domains that are available to purchase immediately and don't require a bidding process. These domains have expired because their owners didn't renew them for one reason or another. Domain age. This is an important one. Enter 3 in the minimum box, indicating that you're looking for a domain that's at least 3 years old. You could also enter 5 or any other number here. Upon conducting your search, you'll get a list of options for available domains. You'll need to trace these options using the research techniques that I already discussed in the prior section. Use the Wayback Machine and Google's advanced search to see the viability of these aged domains. I would consider this more of an advanced strategy, and it will only give you a small leg up in the race toward developing trust with Google. Your results with this strategy will depend upon when Google initially indexed this domain and just how many backlinks already exist to the home page.